afternoon and welcome back to the CSO Zone. I'm very pleased to welcome Jez, who is going to introduce today's afternoon session. Just what you need, a bit of noise when you're starting. So I'll pass this mic over to you, Jez, and good luck.
Thank you, Ben. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon session here in the CSO Zone. This is the second year I've had the opportunity to talk, and it's a fantastic chance for us to discuss many different topics around the social and community kind of aspects of football. And I'm really pleased today that we're going to be talking about a very current and a very important topic, both in this country and globally, around disability football. And we've entitled this talk today around the evolution of disability football, because at this current climate within football, it's a real time, especially with the Paralympics and also with the recent Cerebral Palsy Football World Championships that we held here in the UK. It's a very exciting time for disability football. So I'm very pleased to be joined on this panel today by two individuals. I know both of them pretty well, very well. Firstly, by James Watkins at the end there, who is the National Talent Manager for the FA. And we're really pleased at Soccerex this year to be joined by Jack Rutter, who is the England captain for the Cerebral Palsy team. Both of them are going to be discussing their views on disability football. And Jack is also going to be reflecting on this summer's Football World Championships, Cerebral Palsy Football World Championships, and also looking ahead to leading Team GB to Rio Paralympics next year. So we're going to be here for about the next 20-25 minutes, and then after this we're going to move to the urban cage, where we have a small disability football activation. In the middle of our crowd you'll see two of England's blind squad that are here, Darren and Owen. If you can give us a wave in the middle there they are, guys. And straight after, they're going to be taking on some of our Soccerex legends. Hopefully Ozzy Ardiles might be coming down, Peter Reid will be coming down, and they'll all be having a go at having a penalty blindfolded. So lots to look forward to in the next about 45 minutes. There's lots of different streams of disability football that the FA are involved in. The one that we're going to be spending most of our time talking about is Cerebral Palsy football today. To give you a bit more information on CP football, rather than us describing it, we've actually, the boys from FA TV pulled together a small explanation with the guys, including Jack, on what is CP football. And we've got that short video for you now, if you have a look at the screens.
Cerebral palsy football is for those players who have an impairment of cerebral palsy, a lesion on the brain which affects movement and the person's ability to be able to move around the pitch like a mainstream able-bodied player.
The brain injury part can come from anything from a stroke to a head injury in a car crash or an assault, and obviously the standard CP make up the disabilities involved with the football.
It's a shortened version of the 11v11 game. It's played by a team of 7, and they play over a period of 30 minutes each half, and it is a really demanding form of the game.
Players in cerebral palsy football are categorised into 4 main groups: 5, 6, 7 and 8. 5s are the most impaired and 8s are the least impaired, and at any time you need to have a minimum of 1 5 on the pitch and 1 8 on the pitch. With a player that's classified as a 5, quite often they're affected in both of their legs, and quite often we've got our goalkeeper as a 5 because again they're more restricted with their mobility, and therefore it makes sense for them to be a goalkeeper. Class 6s are affected in 2 arms and 2 legs. Class 7s are your classic hemi-presentations, so they're affected in 1 arm and 1 leg down one side, and the majority of the players that you've got on the team are Class 7. Class 8 are the least impaired, so they'll have mild involvement in normally all 4 of their limbs.
Cerebral palsy players will suffer from nerve damage, coordination, balance, agility, the same sort of thing. To say they can try to control the ball on their left hand leg. They've got cerebral palsy in it, they might not be able to turn out on it too quickly, might just play it up on the other side.
CP football first came to world prominence in the late 1980s, but the first time it appeared in the Paralympic Games was in 1992 in Barcelona, and it has appeared at every Games since then.
I think the important thing is now that we raise awareness of cerebral palsy football. We've got lads that have come into this group that were playing mainstream, and it's opened up new worlds for them.
CB football is a fantastic game to play. It's very hard work, I can't deny that. It's a very big pitch for a 7-side, but you get so much more time on the ball. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'd rather play 7-a-side CP football than any mainstream football that I currently play now.
So that video was filmed at St George's Park, the National Football Centre for the FA, and later on we're going to be telling you about the event that happened in the summer at St George's Park. But it's fantastic that the guys from the CP team were able to use those facilities as well as all the different England teams. A couple of facts for you about disability football, and this is really interesting, this one, that since 2011 there's been a 55% increase in participation in disability football in England. And over the last 10 years, disability football has become the 8th most popular participation sport for people with a disability. That includes things such as walking, swimming, etc. So that's relatively high. James and I were chatting earlier, and this is an even more incredible fact, that it is the 7th most popular team sport across both able-bodied and disabled sports. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, Jess.
There we go. So I was listening earlier when we were discussing. So it's now the 7th most popular team sport across both disability sport and mainstream sport. So that's quite an incredible fact. However, and this is the reason for this talk today, there's not always been the link between disability sport and elite performance. But this did change primarily because of the London 2012 Paralympic Games. And this was a significant moment in raising the awareness of the elite side of disability sport. It allowed the public to see the professionalism and high levels of performance of athletes with a disability. So it really was quite a momentous change in that disability sports being seen as a grassroots only activity to being more of an elite professional outlook. Also, it provided an increase in awareness for people with a disability that were perhaps talented athletes, that they could become elite performers. There was over 250,000 spectators at the blind and CP tournaments, the 5-a-side and 7-a-side tournaments at the Paralympic Games. And it was this success in 2012 that led to the FA making a decision that they wanted to bid for the 2015 Cerebral Palsy Football World Championships. And so the bid was successful, and it was decided that the tournament would be held at St George's Park, of which we're all very familiar with, the National Football Centre in England. And this was going to be the biggest ever tournament ever to be held at St George's Park, as well as the biggest ever disability tournament to be held in the UK. I'd been involved in London 2012 as the planning manager for the Paralympic football tournament, and so they asked me to help with the bid and subsequently take on the role of head of tournament. And this June, we were lucky enough to see 16 of the best countries from around the world participate in the World Champs, which also happened to be the qualifier for Rio 2016. I'll let Jack tell you how England got on, but first of all, we've got a short highlights package from the World Championships.
will be Japan who kick us off to get this Cerebral Palsy Football World Championships 2015 underway. Crossing, a chance to put it into the box, a really good ball, and a chance for the left side of the area, and the first goal is an England goal.
In behind the defence here, great touch on the turn, slots it past the goalkeeper. In here from Molotov, who checks it all the way across goal! Ukraine progress to top the group, whilst England, they face the difficult task of world #1 seeds, Russia.
Now Ramanov maybe with a chance to shoot, goes instead for Larionov inside the area, right channel across the area, and there we go.
Chance a small short ball instead, then strikes it, and a lovely 1-2.
Wanderson leading the charge over halfway. He's got 2 minutes with him. Does he need him? No, he doesn't. Wanderson!
Crashing into the edge of the box, takes 2 out, shoot, hits the inside of the post and it goes in. Cut back near the penalty spot, touch to set it and he blasts it into the net. Toes it outside the box to Rutter, beats his man, chance to shoot now for Rutter, into the goalkeeper, Brown should stab it in.
Circle is crossing, the T's have a shot, it's a thunderous effort, oh, Matt Crossan. Here is Nugent picking up on the corner of the box for the short pass, turns on a sixpence and finds the shot, oh, it's wonderful. Mess it with him every step of the way, look at the driving side now, Crossan still going onto his left foot on the left side of the area, outside the right foot, flick, oh, what a goal, Matt Crossan, absolutely fabulous. It's Larionov, switches it across the Pistretov, real chance, shot comes in and Samasko denies him, and there's the goal for the rebound. And that is it. Keith Stroud blows his whistle, and it is Russia who are champions of the world.
I think the reaction that I get from most people when they see that video is the elite performers that participated in the tournament. People are often surprised by the quality and the high standard of the players. And you saw Matt Crossan's goal there for England. It was a quite outstanding goal. But also the fact that it is actually incredibly enjoyable to watch. One of the figures on there, we streamed every single game live across YouTube, and over 120,000 people watched at least one of the 42 games live on YouTube. And that was from America, Australia, Canada, all across Europe. So it's really quite interesting in seeing that the spectators found it so interesting. But from a player's point of view, Jack, and it's fantastic to see you in action there on the video, how did you find the whole tournament? What an experience.
As the video shows, it was an unbelievable experience. We knew when we went into the tournament, we had to finish in the top 8 to qualify for Rio, so much at stake. First game, as you saw in the video, we smashed Japan 14-0. Narrow defeat to Ukraine 1-0. We finished second overall in the tournament, so it just shows how far we've come as a team. We got knocked out by Russia, so we couldn't win after that. But to go on and beat America 10-0, with probably the best team performance that we've ever had, was fantastic. And then to beat the Republic of Ireland 2-0, who we haven't actually beaten in tournament play since 2009, was obviously brilliant as well. And you saw Matty Crossan's goal. What a goal. The lad had a stroke a couple of years ago. He's playing in the Conference North, done really well. Stroke out of nowhere. And what happens? Disability sport give him a chance to play football on an elite level, and he's absolutely smashed it since coming into the team. Personally, what a feeling it is to captain your country, especially the players involved, all their stories, all the hardship they've been through. Every time I step out on the pitch, training, every game, it's a real honour to be involved with such a fantastic team. And the experience was brilliant. All the media coverage supported the whole thing. Really, really good to see. As Jez has said, live on YouTube, loads of people could watch it. Family and friends who couldn't make the game could go and watch it. Highlights packages, fantastic experience. St George's Park, great advertisement to what a country should have in their as a facility in their country to go and learn the trade. Wayne Rooney can be there, Frank Lampard could be there, Steven Gerrard could be there, and we could be there at the same time in the same venue. And that's what St George's Park is all about.
So just talking about St George's Park, and obviously that's been an interesting topic over the last year or so. So as the CP team, do you get the chance to train there regularly?
Yep, we train there every month. So we've got a camp actually on Thursday for 4 days. We normally have that every month. And you've got all the other teams, the women's team, the male team, our team, other disability teams as well. So everyone's together in the same facility, which I think is fantastic.
And so, being an England player, what does it feel like then when you're at St George's Park training and the main team and Rooney and Harry Kane and those guys were there? Does it feel like a good collective environment?
Well, the slogan is Together for England, and that's what it feels like now. You go to St George's Park, like you said, you've got Wayne Rooney on the other pitch to you, and you can go and talk to them and meet them and share your experiences with them. There's not really a divide anymore, which I think there was a few years back. Now everyone's together in the same hub, all trying to achieve great things for England all together, which is fantastic.
And so obviously it was the biggest tournament ever to be held at St George's Park. As a player, did it feel like a really good tournament venue?
Brilliant tournament venue. As I said, I touched on earlier, the media coverage was fantastic. But what was so nice was the fact that you felt like a professional. It gave people with a disability the chance to go and play football and have media interviews, and just for 3 weeks, feel like you were a pro. And it was just the best experience of my life.
So all 16 teams stayed on site there?
Yeah, everyone stayed at St George's Park, all in allocated to different rooms. And yeah, it was just a brilliant experience. And also, it gave everyone some of the lower countries the chance to play on fantastic pitches against the top teams. So everyone had a great chance to showcase their talent.
So I think it's really important just to highlight that during the tournament, that all the pitches, because how big are the pitches?
I'm not sure the dimensions. It's about 3/4 size of a mainstream
so it's about
pitch.
box to box and a little bit narrow, but the FA invested quite heavily in making every single pitch, I think in total it was 10 pitches, James, wasn't it, that they converted from 11-a-side pitches to 7-a-side CP. So it wasn't lines on top of other lines, which is often the case in disability football. This was time and money and investment in creating the best possible opportunity for the CP players. So if you're going to have to pick out a highlight, okay, what would that have been, other than your double hat-trick in the first game?
That was obviously a nice personal moment, but the highlight was, I would say, after qualifying for Rio, we wanted to finish as high as possible, you know. So obviously beating America was fantastic, but then we had the Republic of Ireland, who were very hard to play against, typical Irish, very determined. So for us to finish 5th position, everyone contributing, everyone in the whole squad contributed to the game. We all did fantastically well, which was great. So to finish 5th, which is the highest we've ever finished in the World Championships, was definitely the highlight.
No, it's a fantastic achievement. I'm sure everybody here will agree with me and say well done to you all for coming fifth in the world. So obviously qualifying 5th means that you get to go to Rio and all going well. Obviously it is a Team GB rather than England, and whereas the women and the men's have been confirmed that they're not going to be going to Rio, you guys will be going to Rio as Team GB, and hopefully, barring injury and that you stay fit and healthy, there's a chance that you could be captaining Team GB in Rio next summer. What kind of feelings does that kind of fill you with at this stage?
Well, about when I was first named captain of the England team about 2 years ago, I thought to myself, right, what's a goal of mine? You know, do well in the Euros, do well in the World Cup, try and lead the boys as best as I can. Thankfully, I've done that, and obviously now that is my dream. If I can captain Great Britain in a Paralympics, it will just be the best experience ever, and I'm really looking forward to it, because I do believe with another 12 months prep and some good valued players from Scotland as well, I do believe we can come back with a medal, really do.
So, Jack, we were at dinner last night together, and you said to me that often people look at you and go, how are you CP captain? Okay, and I think that's quite a fair point. People see you walking around, you're in your actually look very fit, very healthy, very athletic. So I think it's really important that we kind of ask you, how did you get involved in disability football? What is your disability, and how did you get to where you are today?
Okay, it's quite an unusual story. At 18, back in 2009, believe it or not, I was currently at Birmingham City, second-year scholar with the professional team, doing really, really well. We'd actually just reached the semi-final of the FA Youth Cup. I was training with the reserves week in, week out. I think I made 30-odd appearances with the reserves and knocking on the door of the first team. So I was doing really, really well. But about 2 weeks before we were due to play in a semi-final of the FA Youth Cup against Liverpool at Anfield, and about a month or so away from me signing my professional contract, that dream I set out on upon the age of 4, March 22nd, 2009, I remember the date. I was a victim of an unprovoked assault. I was out with friends, just celebrating recent success as a normal 18-year-old does. I was punched to the back of the head, and unfortunately that one single blow knocked me clean out. I smacked my head on a curb, and unfortunately that caused sickening injuries. I fractured my skull in 2 places. I'm permanently deaf in my right ear, brain contusion, brain hemorrhage, and I actually suffered moderate brain damage. Subsequently, I spent 2 weeks in intensive care at Frenchy Hospital in Bristol, in and out of a wheelchair, wasn't sure really what was going on. And when I later got discharged from hospital, could hardly walk straight, could hardly move around straight, couldn't remember anything. My fatigue levels went through the roof. I was sleeping, 20 hours a day. I thought, what's going on here? Months and months of rehab went into my training then, trying to get back on my feet. Went back to Birmingham City. I was like, I'm not the same. I can't do what I used to be able to do. So went to see a specialist. And he said, well, you've had a moderate brain damage. It basically affects your coordination, your balance, and your agility. So unfortunately, having went back to Birmingham, I went to Forest Green Rovers, Cheltenham Town, close to where I live in Gloucestershire. I had to take the very tough decision to retire from professional football in 2010. Very tough decision. At that point, I really didn't know where my life was going to go. But then later down the line, 2012, I was visiting Headway, fantastic charity which deal with people who suffer head injuries. And I said, is there any mainstream football, disability football I can play? Got involved with the East Midlands Cerebral Palsy setup, and then got my chance with England just after the 2012 Paralympics. And since then, played in 3 major tournaments for England. Barcelona was the Intercontinental Cup, European Championships in Portugal, and the latest World Cup at St George's Park. I've been named captain of the team, and hopefully going to Rio with the Great Britain team will just be a dream come true. And it's a fantastic turnaround, but it's because of the opportunity I had available with disability sport, so I'm thankful for that.
Well, Jack, it really is both an inspirational and quite an amazing story there, going from Birmingham City to kind of rock bottom to finding out you had a disability to then coming back and now playing for England. So, Jack, thank you very much indeed. And I'm going to bring in James now. Obviously, you work with many players from grassroots to the elite level with a disability. How common is a story like Jack's where perhaps they didn't really realise they had a disability or could play disability football?
Yeah, I'd like to say that Jack's story is a really uncommon one. I guess the details of Jack's story are, but generally speaking, we actually, I guess we actually find or come across a number of players like Jack, players who didn't have a disability, didn't have a congenital disability, i.e. weren't born with a disability, but maybe acquired a disability through illness, through a stroke, through an accident, a road traffic accident maybe. And so over the years, we've worked with a number of players who have played football at a really high level, potentially professional football. I can name a number of lads who have been earning a living out of the game and have sadly acquired a disability. That might be a loss of limb, and have actually become eligible for our amputee football team. It might be a head injury, and therefore making them eligible for CP football, or actually loss of sight for some reason, again, then resulting in potential participation in our partially sighted or blind team. So I think we've got a number of examples where, individuals have been impacted, and it's actually led to a really positive outcome. One, as an individual playing in a team, but I guess through individuals like Jack and the power of the story, attracting players to the disability football pathway who just want to enjoy football and just want to have fun. So we've got the elite side, players coming in, and then also from participation side as well, Jess.
And so therefore, do you think things like the World Champs were very important in raising awareness for the disability network of both footballers, other sportsmen, that they too could kind of get involved in disability football?
Yeah, I guess, Jez, the one thing that still surprises me, 15 years into working into disability football in grassroots and talent, is that we're actually dealing with one element of the game which is still relatively unknown. So, our blind team have been full-time professional athletes for the last year or so, competing again in European and World Championships. And the investment put in by the FA, but also Premier League, Football League clubs, grassroots clubs in terms of time as well, is significant. And yet, stories like Jack's still shock people. So around acquired disability, around coming to the game, And it still amazes me, 15 years in to doing this role, that we can present and people are still quite surprised by what they hear. You know, I hope we get to a point where, particularly from a talent ID perspective, you know, we're able to find more and more players like Jack, because a lot of the players we're looking for in terms of talent have got a disability. They're playing in mainstream football environments. They're playing in grassroots clubs. Probably week by week, we're finding young lads in football academies, professional club academies and centres of excellence who have got disabilities. Their own coaches don't know they've got a disability because this tag, disability, is quite a dirty word. So not only are we looking for, I guess, talent like Jack, which is hidden, but also talent that doesn't want to be found because there's stigma around disability. So I guess we've got to challenge that word in itself. But the CP World Championships, the event like that, Jez, just raises awareness, challenges perceptions, and most importantly for us, gets people playing as well as finding talent.
So aware that obviously the FA's new national strategy, and they've put again an emphasis on disability football and grassroots, there's obviously this link between talent and grassroots. And so I think for me personally, when I heard that your job title was kind of talent manager for disability, I said, well, isn't disability all just about, you know what I mean, the grassroots? And then you're like, well, actually, there has to be that pathway. So just want to quickly summarise just for us around how that pathway works and what it actually entails. You talked about centre of excellences, etc., and potentially what are the other disability streams that there are?
Yeah, so I guess a quick summary. I mean, one fact we're really proud of at the FA, and we don't necessarily take credit for this. I've already mentioned about Football League, Premier League clubs driving massive disability football programmes, grassroots clubs as well. 1,600 affiliated football clubs and teams out there. So formalised football teams and clubs, loads of opportunities available. 100,000 individuals with a disability playing on a weekly basis. So the 7th largest team sport in England. I'm not going to name the sports that disability football are bigger than, but sports who receive a significant amount of funding from government, sports who are massive in their own right, and yet disability football's larger in terms of player numbers, teams as well. So dramatic in that sense. I guess there's player pathways for different impairment groups, so amputee footballers, visually impaired footballers, players with a learning disability, deaf players. So we're quite proud at the FA of the fact that no matter what someone's disability, they can get involved in the game. Already today you've heard from the Wheelchair Football Association, who've got a massive pathway and sit under the umbrella of the Football Association as well. So from a grassroots perspective, broad area to get involved in the game, clubs. I guess our other challenge is making grassroots football clubs inclusive. So we've gone a long way, in fact made massive strides. Grassroots volunteers, clubs are doing a tremendous job at ensuring that anyone with disability can go and get involved in local football. On a talent side, we do split the pathway. So we make no apology of the fact that grassroots disability football is about inclusion, but when you get to a certain level in the game, it is exclusive. It's about being a talented footballer. So the same principles apply as in mainstream football. I've talked about the differences in terms of trying to find talent, but we've got regional talent centres, we've got talent ID football programmes run at a local level, regional centres of excellence, now termed talent centres, but then we operate England development squads, senior squads in a number of impairment groups where there's an international playing opportunity. So in theory, a player can get involved in grassroots and make the progress all the way through to elite level, playing European and World Championships, and I guess the pinnacle that Jack's mentioned today, the Paralympic Games in Rio next year as well.
Well, I think that's really interesting, seeing how the FA has invested not only in grassroots disability football, but also the talent pathway. And having spoken to you at length, James, about it, it really is fantastic that there is such detail going into it, mostly to replicate what's going on in the mainstream game as well. So that it's not only equal from a playing perspective and a grassroots perspective, but also for an opportunity. Well, look, not only, obviously, have we been joined by Jack today, but we've also been joined by two of our England blind team. They are currently putting their boots on over there. We've got Darren Harris. Darren, give us a wave over there. There's Darren and Owen Bainbridge, who are two of our England blind players. And they are currently booting up and making their way over to the cage. Will Perkins, who works for the FA as well, has got some of the blind footballs, hopefully, in his hand. And we are all going to now move across to the cage, where hopefully a couple of our Soccerex footballing legends are in place, and we are going to be having a penalty shootout against them. But I'd just like to re-emphasise that I think two of those numbers that James said at the end there. 16,000 affiliated disability teams and clubs. 1,600, sorry, affiliated clubs. All right? 100,000, that's the right number, 100,000 players with a disability playing football every single week. That's quite incredible numbers, it really is, and I think it's testament to the FA and the strategy that they've had and the insight they've had that deserves a big round of applause. And also, Jack, good luck next summer. I'm looking forward to probably sitting at home watching you, and fingers crossed, touch wood, you might be able to bring home a medal as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to thank James Watkins from the FA, Jack Rutter, England captain, and on behalf of myself, Jez Weeks, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our discussion on disability football today, and let's make our way over to the cage.